back to another episode of Harmonious at Lunch, the show that fuels your business success. I'm Brandon Gano, your host and guide through the world of harmonious business growth. Today, we're unlocking powerful strategies with industry experts to help your business thrive. If you're a business owner, entrepreneur, or executive, you are in the right place. Join me and our incredible guests today on the journey to clarity, growth, and success. It is time to revolutionize your approach to business. Let's dive in with another episode of Harmonious at Lunch. Welcome back into some more bite-sized business advice. And today we have a very, very important episode. I promise. It's a topic that maybe you listening out there are suffering from right now. It's about burnout. It's about not only what is it, but how do we avoid it? How do we get out of it if we find ourselves there? I know I've been there in the past multiple times in my career running other businesses, and it's no fun. And it also takes a toll on all the other areas of your life, not just your business. My guest today, she got a lot of brownie points because she titled this episode From Burnout to Harmony. So I'm already a huge fan, but Victoria Mensch, welcome to the show. Thank you for being here.
Thank you very much for having me, Brandon. I'm very happy to be here.
You're already my favorite guest because you said harmony in the show title and it's harmonious. I'm already excited for this conversation, but it's also a serious conversation, which sometimes I can be serious. I like to choose not to be, but this is a big deal. And I've been there in the past. And that's also why I'm taking it a little lightly, because I'm on the other side. But a lot of people find themselves in the middle of burnout running their businesses. What happens and what does burnout look like for a 6-7+ figure entrepreneur?
Yeah, so entrepreneurs and founders, they do find themselves in that burnout mode, maybe more often than other people. Though I found that the stress level is really personalized and individual for everyone. So when you have those responsibilities of running the business and the pressure of that business being successful, meeting your payroll, meeting your revenue goals, meeting your growth goals, that certainly adds that pressure, but it's very personal how you experience that. At the end of the day, what burnout is really a chronic stress cycle. And I don't know how many people are aware what stress is, but this is actually coming from our very natural and very useful reaction, our need to survive. So our entire body, our physiological body can mobilize in that kind of life dangerous situation. So that it goes into a fight or flight mode. What we say is like everything shuts down, but that function to fight or flight. And in that normal kind of really dangerous life-threatening situation, it's a very useful, very useful reaction. So rejoice if you're in burnout, you're actually a very good survivor. But the problem is that right now in our modern life, what we do, we assign that danger to all other things that are not really life-threatening. So it could be the team that's not performing well. It could be some outside political situation that is not favorable. It could be, it could be your kids cannot, get to school in time in the morning. So all this accumulates, but we continue to be in fight or flight mode. We never actually complete that cycle. We never turn our nervous system into a rest and digest mode. So that cycle never gets completed. It gets accumulated. All your system shuts down. What it comes down to, why it's called burnout, exhaustion. So a lot of kind of red threads through the burnout is that people feel exhausted to the point when they cannot, no matter how much you sleep, no matter how much rest you take, you cannot feel energized, right? So you're really out of power. With that comes lack of motivation. With that comes kind of skepticism. There are lots of biological reactions that people can experience. Various reactions could be changes in behavior, loss of appetite, or like cravings, constant cravings, things like that, right? So you cannot sleep, or you sleep too much. That really all comes down to that stress reaction. It's on a physiological level. It's controlled by our subconscious brain, our reptilian brain, old brain. It doesn't understand a voice of reason in a verbal sense, right? So you really have to calm it down with other means. What are those means? This is stress management techniques. I call it the first aid, burnout first aid. Like everybody, no matter in which position you are in life, in a leadership position, an entrepreneurial position, founder, you're, housekeeper, it doesn't really matter. You have to manage stress, and there are techniques that basically helps you to your nervous system to switch from fight or flight mode to rest and digest. And in the rest and digest mode, that's where you can make decisions. That's where you actually can take a breath and react with awareness to all the stimulus from the outside world. So that's you want to take care of that. So you probably want to ask what those stress management techniques are, Brenda.
I do want to know that, but I also want to go back because I think you probably have an interesting story of how you got here. I assume you went through some level of burnout. You told me that you did prior to recording, but I'm curious what that looked like for you, and also what motivates you to help other people with this now too.
Right. So I realized at some point, I realized that I went through several cycles of that burnout until I actually found a name for it. That is a burnout. It started very early, out of high school. I wanted to become a psychologist. That was a passion of mine. So I went and I got my degree in psychology. I got my PhD in psychology, and I started counseling people. And it lasted about six months to a year when I found myself really unmotivated, really tired, really exhausted, and I realized that I don't want to talk to people. I don't like talking to people. I don't want to hear
Wait,
all
should
this
we should we
suffering.
stop this episode right now? Are we good?
So that's what I'm telling you, right? So I decided at that time that, well, I made a mistake. I thought it was my passion, but it wasn't. So I need to change career. And that's what I did. I switched to a corporate career, went completely different route, and started a job at a semiconductor company doing marketing. So these are the things that people do in the burnout, right? So and then in that company that lasted for a few years as well until it was new and exciting, and I learned what a microprocessor was and how to sell microprocessors, and then went through another cycle. It's like, I don't know what I'm doing. It's really loss of meaning, right? So I don't know why I'm doing this. So at some point it was kind of like everything looked like on the TV screen. I would come to the office and everybody was moving. I was not part of it. So it's like, well, okay, I made another mistake. I chose the career that I did not like. So I did another pivot and started a new career and so on and so forth, until I realized that it's actually not a career, not a job that was the root of the problem. And I went back and I made all other changes around how I approach this work, how I approach my life, how I approach my priorities, how I set boundaries, what my mindset is. And that helped to create that sense of harmony and resilience, that no matter what's happening in the outside world, no matter what life throws at me, I know that I can create my internal mindset, my internal state that will help me to manage whatever challenges there are. And that's the harmonious state. The happiness is a very interesting element of that. Everyone wants to be happy. Happiness also is kind of a fleeting emotion that gets triggered by so many different things. And it's also a practice. So you choose to be in that state of kind of happiness. And harmony is different. Harmony is that no matter whether it's a positive or a negative condition that's happening around you, you stay in your core and you stay in your mindset, harmonious mindset, knowing what steps are right for you, what's authentic for you, and that you can create that reality for yourself. Does that make sense, Brandon?
Yeah, and all of those sound bites are now my absolute favorite for promoting this show. So thank you for all of those and the harmonious drops in there. But I'm curious too. I promise for the audience, we are going to get into the stress management techniques. I'm not going to let Victoria go without them, but I'm just so curious. So it sounds like when you were switching jobs and saying, maybe this isn't for me, I picked the wrong career, stuff like that. You were seeking something new. And then you even said later that the newness wore off and that's why you think you needed to switch. How much of that do you see in people who are experiencing burnout where it's just they're seeking newness and change and dopamine hits, whether it's scrolling on social media or if you're an entrepreneur starting a new product, project, investing in a new course, a new program, like whatever it is, but never actually following through and finishing something. Is that one of the like telltale signs?
Well, changing the routine is one of those things that could bring that sense of happiness, right? So if you look at, back to the practice of happiness, what makes us happy? One of those is really there's different experiences, new experiences. A lot of people, what they do, they chase those big experiences. Oh, now I'll change the work, right? Or I'll change the location. I'll quit my job in Silicon Valley and I'll move to Bali, whatever. People make those changes, radical changes, or I quit everything. I quit this relationship. I will start a new relationship. So that novelty, we're chasing that novelty. The key here to actually the harmonious way to do that, to realize that it does not have to be this big change. It could be that you create these new experiences every day. So it's really the novelty of that. It does not have to be big. It can be small. It's just the multitude of them. So it could be instead of pivoting your entire business. Well, sometimes it's the answer, right? So, but sometimes it's not. If you're doing it for a wrong reason, just because you're chasing something new, it will bring you the same level of satisfaction and happiness as just taking, a day trip to a neighboring state. So it's really about creating new experiences that brings you a sense of happiness, but it's in your control of what experiences you choose to create. So happiness is a practice. The harmonious way to do that is really to do it with awareness. Like, why am I doing this? When I'm making this life-changing decisions, am I making them for the right reasons, or I'm making them from desperation because I want to change something, because I cannot take any longer one more day of my life, right?
Yeah, that's interesting. I'm actually surprised by that answer. So you're not saying it's not a bad thing, but it's just being intentional and focused and specific with where you're directing your energy. Um,
Hmm.
Interesting take on that. I like that. So, okay, we've waited long enough. I've kept the listeners on hold here. Stress management techniques. So, a lot of entrepreneurs, we definitely have some layer of level of stress, whether it's clinical burnout or just everyday day to day stress, it's there. And I think we know that that comes with the territory. But I'm curious to hear what you have in managing and hopefully even mitigating some of the stress that
Yeah.
we currently feel.
Yeah, so I like to talk about two levels of burnout management. The first one, as I said, is really pure stress management, right? So it's a physiological reaction that you want to switch from one mode of operation to another, calmer and more natural mode of operation, from fight or flight to rest and digest. And the techniques that again, I think everybody should take time to manage are breathing. Breathing is a breath is a bridge between the mind and the body. So when we have those, and there are tons of them, they're very elaborate techniques and very elaborate breathwork sessions. That's not what I'm talking about. If you're called to do that, then fine. But it's really small changes when you get overwhelmed, when you get overwhelmed with anger or anxiety or disappointment or sadness. You feel stress, however you feel stress for you. It makes sense to take a few moments and exercise some breathing techniques. So the one that I really like called boxed breathing, because it takes just a few minutes. So you inhale on six counts, you hold your breath on six counts, you exhale on six counts, and you hold your breath on six counts again, six counts again. And what it does, it actually floods your blood with CO2, which surprisingly sends a signal to your reptilian brain that everything is okay, the danger is past. So you cannot just tell yourself this is okay, right? So it really has to come from that physiological reaction, and breathing is one way to do that. The second one is movement, and just it could be very simple. Why? Because we were talking about the stress reaction. It has to end with the movement. So that stress reaction has to end with the you either fly, you either run away or you get into the fight, right? So it has to be a muscular response to that. That's how you complete the stress cycle and stop it from accumulating unnecessarily. So it could be a brisk walk. It could be as simple as stretching, or it could be like you clench and you relax your muscles and you do that like 10 times. that also sends a signal to your survival mode that you don't need to be in the survival mode anymore. And visualization and meditation, quick guided meditation, to sit down, to calm down and follow your breath for a few minutes. So those are stress management techniques that I call first aid, right? So it's not going to get you out of the burnout sustainably, but it's going to help in the moment to manage that stress. It's kind of like a band-aid. If you make a cut in your arm, you put a band-aid on, and it feels better. It helps to stop the bleeding and so on and so forth. And then I like to talk in the most work that I do with my groups and my mentorship program is on that second level of a burnout, the sustainably to get out of the burnout mode into that harmonious environment, harmonious state. And those are more of a mindfulness techniques. So I like to talk about one of the first exercises that we do and practices that we do is a self-care practice. So it looks like that. You sit down and you write down a list of things that you like to do. Just for the joy of it, for nothing else but the joy of it. Not because it's useful, not because it's going to save you time, not because it's going to bring you money and give you return on investment, not because somebody else asked you to do that, only for the reason of bringing joy to you. You do them because you like doing them, nothing else. And you put 20 of those on the list. And I challenge anyone to do that, especially very busy entrepreneurs and founders, and see how it goes. I can share my experience when I first did this. It took me 2 weeks to complete.
I was gonna say, I'm thinking like I can do like 20. You want me to find
Yes,
20 things that I like to do? Where am I gonna
yes.
come with that list?
Yes, exactly. So that's what happened to me. I stopped at three. I was like, what? I don't know what I like to do anymore. How did that happen? Right. So like I forgot what it is that I like to do. So I deprioritize my joy completely. What it does, it really depletes you. It depletes your energy. But once you start building this into your day, so one thing is to complete that list, but the other thing is actually put 3 of those every day on your calendar. And we, as entrepreneurs and founders and high achievers, we live and die by our calendar. If it's not in the calendar, it doesn't exist. So it's a very important step to put it in the calendar. Now that list can be really it could be elaborate. I want to take, I don't know, 3 months vacation, right? That's okay, put it on the list, but add smaller things as well. Like I like to sit on my balcony under the sun for 5 minutes and read a book or listen Harmonious at Lunch podcast, right?
That's a
So
good one. That should be on every single list, Victoria. Yes.
so it's like that. So when people, because the first thing people say, like, well, I'm already overwhelmed, I don't have time, and you want me to do what? But this is how you prioritize yourself, and this is how you prioritize your joy, and this is how you replenish your energy. You do things that bring you joy just for the sake of it, for nothing else. And it gives most people I work with, and definitely was for me, was a really interesting way to get back in touch with who I am and what I want and the priorities there. It's not egoistic, it's not egocentric, there's nothing narcissistic about that. It's really about replenishing your energy. Everything else that's going on outside in the world, sometimes you don't have any control over that. Some new regulation came in, and what can you do? You can only adapt, right? But your self-care is entirely in your control, and that's the empowerment piece there, that you are in control, you are in power, and that's how you take control of your life and your state, and you bring harmony. So that's the first one. Second one that follows very quickly with that one is gratitude, and we talk a lot about that gratitude. What it is at the end of the day is you train yourself to notice the things you like instead of the things you don't like. And that's very powerful as well, because that's what we're talking about internally, right? So it's within your power what you know it is. When where attention goes, where the mind goes, the attention goes, and the life goes. So you actually train yourself to know it is that. Let's see, you have an employee who is consistently not, well, maybe that's not the best one, but consistently missing deadlines, right? So there's one way is to continue complaining about that. Another way is actually, notice what it is that he consistently does well and be grateful for that and express that gratitude to that person as well. To be very intentional about that. And it is a muscle, it is a practice. So that's what I want to emphasize at the end of the day. So the happiness, the harmony is not a snapshot in time, it is a practice. That's how you practice to approach your life. You prioritize yourself, your joy, your uniqueness, your talents, your gifts, and their value for everyone else, including yourself. You become grateful and notice things you like instead of things you don't like. And then next step, you actually relinquish unnecessary control. So a lot of entrepreneurs, a lot of founders, a lot of people in those leadership positions, we really want to run a tight ship, and a lot of that control is unnecessary control. So that's why your boundaries suffer. That's why your time management suffers. That I want things to be done this way and no other way, and only I can do them the best way they can be done, and there's no other way. So that the control that you want to be very aware of, and your practices, how to relinquish that, how to start delegating in a smart way, and free up that space and that energy and that time to do things that's really bringing value, right? So instead of running around and micromanaging everyone and doing all those little things, what is the value that I can contribute? Where is the biggest contribution that I can make? And how I can delegate everything else around it, and how you relinquish control. So all those steps are really kind of the steps to get out of that burnout into harmony. And we can talk more about the, how you define what that value that you bring, how you separate yourself from your job, how you start, valuing yourself, your time, and your contribution, and that's how you get out of burnout.
I love it. I mean, you can clearly see how all of that stacks up to create a meaningful change, and that's really what you want. And even from the you called it the band-aid fixes, with the breathing and movement, activity, stuff like that. I would encourage you listening to just before you even do any of that, like think about it. When was the last time you did any of those things? Could you, like we just said, make a list of 20 things that you like doing on the spot, or would that be a challenge? And that might be insightful for you where you are with your burnout journey, we'll call it. You might be closer to burnout than you think. And from my own personal experience, it snuck up on me. I don't want to see it sneak up on you. And I was telling Victoria before we started recording, that's the point of this whole show. Because of that journey that I went through, I wanted to create a show, a podcast where we could hear multiple perspectives on building the whole person, the whole entrepreneur, not just business. If your business fails, your life goes on. If your life fails, your business stops. So make sure you prioritize the right things. Victoria, this is fantastic. We are out of time. I wish we could keep talking, but the listeners can keep learning about you. Where should they go to learn about you, what you have going on, and more of your burnout tips?
Yes, Brandon. So there are two ways to get in touch. First, on LinkedIn. I'm on LinkedIn. This is my main channel, so you can book a call with me. We can talk more about burnout. I'm happy to share more tips and tips. I do have an academy, Silicon Valley Executive Academy, where we do corporate programs about leadership and all that. As a part of that, we actually do retreats. So there's an upcoming retreat that's specifically to look at what is it that's beyond success. So if you want to accelerate that journey from burnout to harmony, take a week out of your time, come to Bali at the end of October, and go and learn these practices. Set the goals, reset, reignite, rejuvenate, and take yourself to a new level in just 7 days.
I don't know, Victoria. Bali for 7 days in October. It sounds just miserable, right? Am I right?
Yeah, well,
It sounds
it's
amazing.
magical. I know it's magical. Bali itself is magical. The reason I want to do it in Bali is like 25% of that acceleration is already there just by the, virtue of being in that place.
It does sound magical. I'm jealous. I'm gonna go click on the link. I don't know about you listening, but that's just what I'm gonna do. So, Victoria, thank you for this. It's been amazing, and it's such an important conversation. I'm glad we were able to have it, and hopefully, you listening, it helped you just a little bit. But Victoria, thank you for your time. Thank you for being here.
Thank you, Brandon.
For those of you watching, listening, all the details, everything Victoria just said, are down below in the show notes, wherever you are. And also make sure you subscribe. We want to have you back. Make sure you keep listening to Harmonious at Lunch. We love putting out episodes 5 days a week because we're a little crazy, but mostly passionate about helping you build a harmonious business and life. So we'll see you on tomorrow's episode. Thanks for being here.